Welcome back to the Restaurant Growth Show podcast. Today, we tackle a crucial question in hospitality. How can restaurant operators effectively drive sustainability? And who better to help us answer this question than today's guest, Jason E. Brooks. Jason, a friend of the show, brings over 30 years of experience in hospitality with top brands. He's going to help us understand how operators can reduce food waste, implement energy efficient practices, and leverage data to enhance operation. Jason, welcome back to the show. And normally I'm going to ask you how you're doing today. But before I ask you how you're doing and let you say anything at all, I want to congratulate you, my friend. Today is your fifth episode, and as you can see, maybe you can on the whiteboard behind me here, you've joined the Five Timers Club. Jason, I'm gonna add some, applause to the background there. Jason, we got you a Five Timers jacket here. Let me just show it here for you guys. There's no embroidery yet. We're working on the embroidery. We've got you a Five Timers jacket right here, my friend.
Oh, he got it tailored for me too. That's what I'm
It's
talking
gonna
about.
fit you just right. It's gonna fit you just right.
Sheepskin.
So
Love.
with all of those exciting things being said, welcome to the Five Timers Club, number one. Number two, how are you doing today?
Man, doing good. Besides, again, the whole donut thing, man. I mean, it's sad.
For those of you who are just understanding why Jason is sad, it is National Donut Day. Jason, why don't you tell us
Hmm.
why you're upset about National Donut Day?
It's not that donuts are bad. It's that donuts at a certain age give you a reminder about the fact that you're at a certain age. Back when you were younger, you could smash a dozen. You could see that, Krispy Kreme, hot, fresh donuts sign lit up in the window and just do a
I'm a
U-turn.
Boston cream guy myself. I
See,
love a good Boston cream.
see,
Same here.
see, and just pull up and just grab a dozen, and it didn't affect you any. Now, these days, you can take a bite of one donut and you can feel it being consumed by your body. That
or not
or
consumed.
not,
Or just sitting there,
or just
sitting there on
not
your
me.
ass for the next 30, 50 years, whatever it is.
Exactly.
That's what
I
sucks.
work out a lot and I'm still like, how can I just need to get rid of like this stuff,
Just
It's
two
like,
muffins. I just got to get these two muffins going.
it's impossible. So the National Donut Day is a
Mm,
danger. It's
mm,
actually a threat to
mm,
those of us
mm.
with, slow metabolisms.
That's what we blame it on. Slow metabolism,
Something like that.
or just being slow. One of the
Or
two.
you're having a desk job and not moving around as much as
Exactly.
I should.
Bingo. There it goes.
All right, Jason, we've got some questions we want to ask you about sustainability. It's what a lot of restaurant operators are asking themselves and looking inward to their operations. But before we get into those questions, can you just like from a high level, can you talk about what sustainability means in hospitality to restaurateurs?
It's thinking about more than just not having waste or not wasting items. It's thinking about how can everything that you do be used within a circle to where the footprint that you're leaving behind is much smaller, and that the thing that you start the list doing helps you towards the end of the list, and the end of the list helps you back towards the beginning. It's just making sure that you're able to not only do well with the environment, but do well with your business and do well with your community to where you can stick around longer, to where your business can thrive longer versus the waste that tends to happen if we're only focusing on the greenbacks.
Exactly. It's a more holistic approach, in my opinion. Jose, do you wanna kick off the question? Why don't you go with 1, 3, and 5, and I'll do 2, 4, 6.
Sure. Jason, you mentioned the importance of proper sales forecasting to reduce water waste from starting products. Can you elaborate on how operators can improve their sales forecasting methods to save both time and resources?
There's a one-letter word that would describe this, and it starts with a D and it has 4 letters, and it's not dirty. It's data. Okay. Data is what can really help you when it comes down to, because most restaurants don't have the blessing to be able to get in everything fresh. they have to get in some things frozen. As much as we would love to say everything is farm fresh, nothing is frozen, when your restaurant is located in the middle of Nebraska, you're going to have to get in some kind of items frozen. Or even if you're in Florida, it doesn't matter. Something needs to come in frozen. When that happens, you have to know how to, what most people say, slack food. Slack food means thawing food, putting it on a speed rack. But there's times that we tend to focus on food cost so much that the food cost math in some managers' mind is the less I have on the shelf, the less that my food cost is going to be. And to some point, when it comes to today's on hand, and we can touch on that later, that can be true. But when it comes down to frozen product needs to come in, be checked in, needs to be rotated, needs to be then pulled out the box, put onto sheet pans, labeled with the right date, and then thawed correctly. If not, then you have someone dumping pounds of items into your sink and turning on that sink for an hour, if not more, of just running water. And hopefully they're thawing it the right way, but we don't want it to be like that. So the whole premise of saving money by having less, by ordering it last minute, doesn't really matter, because you're running the water for an hour or 2 hours, 2 to 3 times per week in order to get product thawed. That right there is one of the biggest things that when it comes to forecasting your sales, if you can forecast your sales, and not just dollars wise, but product mix wise, knowing what you sold last week, Thursday, the Thursday prior to that, the Thursday prior to that, then what you were up or down versus last year, and then any other things like weather or events or holidays that may be going on. So that all wraps into that 4-letter word that starts with D, data. That's what brings it right back to data. I love that hand sign. Next thing that you can do is also to identify trends. And that is still you looking at your data, taking the time to not be like, it's Thursday, I always know what we sell on Thursday. I wish that was the case. You have to actually look and see what you have been selling and what the trends have been. And then again, looking at those external factors like weather, sports, events, and then holidays. And then, of course, digging into your product mix, meaning how much shrimp was sold, how much chicken was sold, how much broccoli, and knowing what that is according to the sales. Is it 5% of sales, 3% of sales on average? And then if it's going to be increased sales, then you increasing that amount of product for that 3 to 5 days or whatever that the truck is going to hold. Last piece, get digital. Because I would love to say that we can put all this stuff on a spreadsheet or a piece of paper or a abacus that fills up a whole wall and just sliding balls back and forth trying to do the math. No, you're going to have to get digital at some point, because there's so many fluctuations that tends to happen, especially when you add in online orders. And especially when it comes to those locations that begin to add in online orders or start to do some further marketing towards their online orders, you can then kind of skew those sales if you're still new at doing that. So getting digital helps to take some of that weight off your shoulders of doing all that math.
Makes sense. Makes sense.
Yeah, I can only imagine the amount of water this forced thawing products. That to me screams, poor time management. And that also leads into my next question that talks about, you did answer a little bit of what we're going to ask here next in terms of data management for sustainability. But let's talk about garbage data in, garbage data out. Can you talk a little bit more about what that means to operators?
That means if you eat a lot of donuts, then you're not going to be fit. So
It doesn't always come out
though. But garbage data in, that's, us taking our time as operators, and our business is built for us to be the most productive when we're in front of the guest, making things happen, getting the work done. But we have a lot of paperwork that also needs to be done too. And that data that we get from this paperwork, from these counts, helps us to rub that crystal ball and see what's coming up tomorrow or next week, whether writing a schedule or doing a truck order. So having to slow down to speed up, like Lightning McQueen said, you have to slow down in order to speed up, is a very key thing. So don't rush through your counts and things like that. Most people should know that. but being consistent is also something. We tend to, like, one of my focuses that I've been on here recently, which is delegating. We tend to try to do everything ourselves. And since we have less time, we speed through things or we take shortcuts. But being consistent with the process that we use, with the footsteps that we take through our restaurant. If we're starting from the walk-in freezer to the walk-in cooler to dry storage to then the pantry station, then the grill station, then the prep station, then up to the bar, whatever the footsteps are, be consistent in those footsteps as you're walking through. Then be consistent in the technology that you use. And when I say technology, that can be a piece of paper. I hope there's no operators still using a piece of paper to get their data, but be consistent in that piece of paper. Don't go switching from this one day to something else the next day to something else the next week. Be consistent in the technology that you use. And then, if at all possible, use the same person or group of people. Yes, we should be delegating and training people to take on more processes, but that is a very thought out process and plan that we're with them talking through all the counts when it comes down to how we're getting this data from the orders and the counts and the 0.7 of a case to a 0.2 of a bottle. But we're with them side by side. But those things right there, slowing down in order to speed up to get the best data, be consistent of when you're counting, use the same process, use the same footsteps, use the same technology, and hopefully use the same people, or as you're bringing them in, you're walking with them and working through it for a couple of times so that they can understand. And that's how you can get better data going in order to be more efficient with those numbers.
I couldn't agree more. And you know what? There is something to be said about the instinctive nature of an operator, and sometimes they take decisions. In my experience working with restaurants throughout the years, there's a lot of times that they make a decision not necessarily based on data, and then you compare to the database, and a lot of times are very similar, like, or at least very similar in what they were intending or touching and making decisions on. But I think that every time that you leave out data, there is a margin, there is a piece that you are missing out on, for sure, right? Precision.
I can't discount gut feelings. Absolutely. Gut feelings within your business. You should know your business. You built it. You're in there 9 days, 8 weeks. So you are correct. But it's that one time. It's that one time that you don't use the data and you're like, I'm going to go with my gut feeling. And then that's whenever you can get some bad choices from that.
Well, the devil is in the details, and in an industry where margins are so thin, if you can shave, half a point here, improve a half a point there over time, you're still bolstering the bottom line and utilizing data as the benchmark. But still incorporating your gut feeling. Of course you have to, because there's so much natural variables that are happening on a day-to-day basis from minute to minute. Anyways, go ahead, Jose.
Well, yeah. So on that note, and let's go back to the garbage and the donuts. When it comes to food waste, and that is a very significant issue in the industry around the world, right? What are some practical steps that restaurant operators can take to minimize food waste while also saving time in their daily operations?
I view food waste in two different areas. One area is pre-consumer food waste, and that is food waste that happens before the food even reaches the guest. And then there's post-consumer food waste. And that's waste that happens after the guest has received it. First, to battle both types, first thing that you have to do is be accurate at your inventory. That's the very first thing. Make sure that your inventory system is linked to your POS sales so you can understand when it comes to food that is being wasted, what you actually bought, what you actually sold, and what you should have had still sitting there, and now what you actually have. That's going to give you that variance. That variance is key to understand what's going on with food waste. So yes, it's good to have good data. It's good to have inventory, but when you tie in your inventory to your POS system to actually link it to what's being sold, you're more so able to have or to know where to look when it comes to food waste. Now let's get back to pre-consumer focus, the pre-consumer waste. Some pre-consumer waste tends to happen that we may over prep items. You wake up, it's Saturday. I always prep 5,000 this on Saturdays versus looking at the last few Saturdays of what you actually sold. So making sure that the prep is correct, and then making sure that you are accurately forecasting those sales and that you're accurately ordering the right amount of food. Food is very perishable, meaning that some food that we order, it can sit on the shelf for 36 hours and then it's done. Can't even use it. Some, it can sit on there for 8 weeks and it's still good to go because it's a dry good. But knowing and understanding how much that you're bringing in according to how much that you use helps to cut down on pre-consumer waste. A few more things: storing food properly, making sure that your equipment is working at the right temperature to hold it at the right temperature for its best storage to be the best tasting for the right amount of time. Then a few more pre-consumer focus: writing down the order. It drives me nuts whenever a server doesn't write down my order, which we can go with this is post-consumer or pre-consumer. So they want to impress me. I have a family of like 12 at this party. And like, yes, all right, okay. So Mr. Brooks, you had this, Mrs. Brooks, you had that, and little Timmy, and da-da. And they're not writing down anything. I'm like, oh Lord, this is not going to go good. And then out of the 12 items that should come out, 3 are wrong. So boom, waste right off the bat. Some other ways to help reduce waste is, this is a special trick for in kitchens, calling back the order. Calling back the order to the person that is quote unquote running the window. When you're running the window and you're trying to coordinate what the kitchen is cooking, what should be coming up next to go at this party, to go on this tray, to get out to this party, all of the callbacks is key to make sure. So that cook that thinks that he's just the poop and that his poop don't stink, and he's just like, yeah, I'm not going to call back nothing. I'm just making my food and I got one Apple AirPod in, listening to whatever. No, you have to pay attention to what's going on to help reduce that waste. And then, of course, calling back the orders. And if you notice, almost all of these things that we're talking about here doesn't cost money. It's making sure that we're paying attention to what's being ordered, writing it down, calling the order back to the customer, and then in the back, getting that communication going to make sure that it's the right items going out to the right people so that there is less waste. Then last few pieces is restaurants can actually look at their portion size. Whenever you go out to eat abroad, across the pond, portion sizes are much smaller. You come to America, we are the only one that's going to sell you a 48-ounce steak for one person. I have seen that
Only in America.
Only in America. Got to get the values worth. But maybe we should be looking at our portion size because how much food is left on tables after people get up that they're like, no, I'm good. I can't eat that 13 donut. That baker's dozen. So that's just one of those things there of how we can help reduce waste, not only with data, not only with ordering, but also in the interaction with the customer and getting the food out to the table.
Now, sticking with the theme of the show, which is sustainability, let's talk about energy efficiency and time management, which we all know that you are the guru of. So energy efficiency in building and equipment is crucial for sustainability. How can restaurants implement energy efficient practices without it being a time-consuming process for operators and staff?
We've already touched on one. That's the running the water all day, all week in order to force thaw product. Second piece, which is pretty easy, looking at the type of light bulbs that you have within your hoods. the type of light bulbs that's in the back of house, front of house, outside the building. Using those bulbs is a great tool that you don't have to retrain your people. It's just something that you are swapping out. Plus, we have lots of restaurants that don't even have matching light bulbs. It's like this weird discotheque whenever you walk in, and none of the bulbs are the exact same. But getting LED bulbs to help reduce how much energy is being used. Back to water. Leaky pipes in restaurants. You can walk in just about any back of house restaurant, even in their restaurant. How many times have you seen that steady drip coming out the hand wash sink, coming out wherever, or the toilet that's in the bathroom that's always running? That's another thing that we're actually not really retraining on. We're just paying more attention to. Smart thermometers. Smart thermometers in restaurants is a huge thing because we have the opening crew, and it's always that one person that says that they have thin blood, so they're always cold, and they crank up the thermometer as soon as they come in because they got to make sure it gets warm enough. And then by the time everyone else comes in, then they crank it back down because there's 15 people that's in the building. But smart thermometers that can be locked remotely in order to keep your business at an even temperature is another smart way that doesn't even take training. One last piece that does take some training, but having a startup shutdown cycle for your equipment. So whenever you're walking in, what pieces of equipment should actually start first? Some of those opening cooks, they walk down the line, whoosh, 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 just turning on everything. Gas is popping versus we don't really need this piece of equipment hot for the next 90 minutes. Let's not cut this on till then, this and that is going to help. Then I lied. There is one more thing. Separating hot equipment from cold. This is something that we don't really think about. Why would you put too many reach-in coolers next to too many hot products, or too many cold top units next to a 6-eye burner? When you're looking at the layout of your kitchen as a restaurant, look at how many hot pieces and cold pieces are side by side, causing the other one to run longer. Usually it's the hot item causing the cold holding item to run longer and run and harder because of all the heat that is around it, making it heat up.
Makes all the sense in the world. It just creates entropy, chaos, and waste. Of course, fantastic. It's amazing because we don't think about those things too much. And that brings me to the next question. And I don't want to be biased towards your answer.
Sounds spicy. This sounds spicy.
It's coming. It's coming. Salsa. But I think that there is an opportunity because the newer generations, and I mean, right now there's a workforce that's coming in that is from a generation different than ours. We were concerned about the nuclear, the Cold War, but these kids, their doomsday is global warming. So we're hoping that they are much more aware of sustainability and of these things. But so when it comes to staff training and awareness, right? They are vital for sustainable operations. We know that. We've mentioned this many a time. What are some effective strategies for training staff on sustainability, practices that won't take up too much of their time and still yield significant results?
I'm curious how we went from doomsday, global warming,
it was just mentioned
Cold War to staff training. Can you help me make that connection?
It's a new generation that their doomsday thinking is not like ours, which was
the polar ice cap melting.
It's exactly.
Thank you for that. Thank you for your clarification. Thank you for that.
Well, I always say this. You've heard me say it a few times. Train them from day zero. But what does that mean? What does it mean to train them from day zero? Even when it comes to you being more focused on being sustainable and efficient, you actually start that with what you're known for within your community. You are either known for someone that is focused on saving energy or you're not. It's not that you have to have everything out front talks about being green, but there is probably some kind of marketing effort put into the front of house to the exterior something that helps to define the fact that you are cognizant of saving energy. You're cognizant of saving water. You're cognizant of saving linen. So all of the things that you're doing of how many takeout utensils you give to your customers for their takeout orders, all those things, you can have some kind of marketing even out there that helps to, hate to say it, brainwash people even before they even interview for working for you, that you're looked at as someone that is focused on helping to reduce that footprint. Second thing, it is that you really have to build it into your orientation. Whenever you hire them, they then accept the offer, they then come in. If you say that you're energy efficient, but you have a stack of 89 papers for them to sign in triplicates, that doesn't say much. You better be, again, digital. You better make sure that everything they're doing in order to onboard is actually digital. Their handbook digital. You're doing as much, and then you're explaining the why. It's one thing to do that thing. It's something else to then explain that why on the first day of orientation. A few other pieces. Whenever you're training for different areas within your restaurant, you can actually have little sections on your training card that's reusable, not a one and done print, but on your training cards that actually highlights savings, or that highlights sustainability, or highlights recycling for that area, for the host stand, for the saute area, for the prep kitchen. But if you can just highlight one or two things in every area that you train throughout your business, that's how you're actually training them, not only from the marketing aspect to the orientation aspect to when they're being trained. And then the last piece is you can always have those little cards that's up by the light switch saying, make sure that we turn off all lights by X, or on the thermostat, or in the walk-in cooler, or for dry storage. Little reminders throughout your business for people to get that friendly reminder, because we all have things that are on our mind, from bills to spouse to friends to social media. We will need that reminder in order to tell us, hey, don't forget, don't leave the water running.
You know, it wouldn't be a Restaurant Growth Show podcast episode if we didn't mention artificial intelligence. Now, Jason, how can operators leverage AI technologies to continuously improve their operations and save time while being more sustainable?
That is a really easy question. And it still goes down to that 4-letter dirty word that starts with D, data. It goes back to data. It goes back to data.
I thought you were
Data
going to
is
mention the girl I dated a few years ago, Donna. I was going to
Dana.
apologize, Donna. I'm really sorry. But no, you meant it's data. Okay, sorry.
Yes. Because whenever you're looking at all of the moving pieces within the business and everything to analyze of just how much to order, let AI do that for you. We make lots of mistakes ourselves, but the thing is that when we make it, we make an excuse of, oh, it's Billy's fault. It's because he was talking to me when I did my bar order, so I ordered 3 cases too much of XYZ. No, it's not. It's because you did that. But whenever you let AI analyze what's going on in and around your building, we may do good at knowing what our numbers are, but we're really not that good at understanding the things that are going on around the building that we're not thinking of. Different expos, different conferences, and weather stuff. There's all kind of things that AI can pull in that information of how to best reduce the amount of usage of items without going overboard to where we actually run out. We can also think about AI when it comes down to our equipment. There is AI powered walk-in coolers, reach-in coolers, things like that, that helps us to understand, is our product being held safe for our customers for the right amount of time, and then can alert us. It can also say it's time to service this piece of equipment and even schedule getting someone out to come service it. So there's so many things when we think about how many more things that our business can do and will do within hospitality. it's good to have something else doing the math for us.
It's interesting to hear about, obviously, data. Data can be a good word. Data can be a dirty word. Bottom line is we need to wrap our heads around the
Yes.
data that we
Mhm.
are surrounded by every single day. That's all the time we have for this episode today. Jason, now's your time to plug away. Where can people connect with you? What's your platform of choice?
JasonEBrooks.com, and you can always catch me on LinkedIn. I love that community. I don't need more followers. I need more people building a strong community of hospitality. That's it.
Engage on LinkedIn. Jason is constantly on there, and he is very, very active. Come join the party on LinkedIn. Speaking of plugs, this podcast is sponsored by Dynpricing, real-time restaurant profitability. Dynpricing uses artificial intelligence to improve restaurant profitability by dynamically updating menus across digital channels like Uber Eats, DoorDash, and Grubhub. That's all the time we have for this episode. Thanks again to Jason for joining us. Jason, you have again entered the 5-Timers Club. Congratulations to you, sir. Until next week, say goodbye, Jose.
Data, donuts. Goodbye.
Love it.
That's great. Jason, thank you so much.